The perception of earth, heaven, and hell. First, reality can be divided into what is perceived, which are called perceptions, and the capacity to perceive, which is called perception. That dividing is only a matter of labels, of categories, of words, of language. Perceptions and perception. If we think of it like a tree, the trunk of the tree is perception, and all the various branches, twigs, etc., are the variety of perceptions, the 10,000 things of Taoism, the variety of experiences that we can have, things that come and go. And then perception. At the root of all perceptions is that process of perceiving. So what is perceived is called the earthly world. And what does the perceiving is called heaven. So in the beginning, reality was sorted into two categories using language: heaven and the earthly world. The process of perceiving and all of the various perceptions. Spirituality is the study of heaven, which is just a word for the process of perceiving. Heaven is just a word for the process of perceiving, the heavenly realm, the spiritual realm, the process of perceiving. Spirituality is another word for introspection, which is another word for the study of language. There's no tangible physical division or boundary between heaven, the process of perceiving, and earth, what is perceived. The division is merely linguistic. There's no tangible physical division between the front of my hand and the back of my hand. But in language, I can refer to the front and the back of my hand as if they're two completely disconnected categories, identities. The front of my hand contracted, causing the back of my hand to stretch. And I can say that. That's not because of a physical division between the front and the back of the hand. That's not required for me to have language and use language to divide that which is connected. When I say divide, I mean sort or categorize or identify distinctions. So those who lack spiritual understanding, that is, lack a clarity about language and labels, can use the words of spirituality. But their words will have no power, for there is no spiritual authority without spiritual clarity. They may speak of heaven as something that is eternal, and yet has not started yet. They may speak of heaven as something that is almighty, and yet is threatened by demonic powers. Or maybe that's God who's almighty but is threatened by the devil. They may speak of heaven as something that is everywhere, omnipresent, yet obviously not here. It's everywhere, but not here. They're experiencing hell, and yet talking about heaven, which is a bit like talking about being on the moon without ever having been there. Or perhaps like a 2-year-old teaching the mathematics of multiplication, 6 times 7, to a 1-year-old who does not even understand spoken language yet. They don't know what 6 is, or 7, or times, or 6 times 7, or 42. It's like talking to the wall or talking to my dog. I taught my dog multiplication. You've ever seen the stories about someone teaching their horse how to multiply, things like that, and the horse will stamp on the ground a certain number of times? Well, that is memorization. This horse can be trained that whenever it hears the sounds 2 plus 2, that it stomps 4 times. It can be trained to do that. But that doesn't necessarily prove comprehension of the English language or comprehension of multiplication, that it can respond to a particular sequence of words, 2 plus 2, with 4, stamp, 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 stamp. Damn it, that was 5. Stamp, stamp, stamp. Okay, whatever. You know what I meant. So comprehension is distinct from somebody just, like if you imagine the visual of the number 2, and then an X, and then another 2, and then a little equal sign of parallel lines. I don't have to know what that equal sign is, and the parallel lines. I just see the sequence of shapes, and I go, oh, I know what goes there. It's this shape right here. And I draw a number 4 right there in the space beyond the equal sign. But none of that matters. None of that matters in regard to, well, how does it matter? Let me go over to this. I see the symbols. I put the answer in the right place, and then everybody says, "Oh, now you're ready for second grade or whatever." But do I comprehend everything? Eventually, I do, but it can take some time. Initially, there's just rote repetition of things, and it's perfectly fine for the 2-year-old to say to the 1-year-old, "No, that's not the right shape to write. Here's the right shape to write in that space. Here's what you're supposed to do is write that shape there." And the 2-year-old doesn't necessarily understand mathematics, but they can copy the shape, and they can train someone else to copy the shape. But they don't have the spirit or the comprehension or clarity about multiplication yet. Just because they can copy the form doesn't mean that they have actual mastery over the language or over the mathematics. So these teachers who talk about the moon but have never been there, who talk about spirituality but don't have any clarity about spirituality, don't have any authority in that matter, they have been called the blind leading the blind. They may have sincerity, but their good intentions may lead deeper and deeper into hell. Sincerity, good intentions are not the same as clarity and comprehension and mastery. A 2-year-old with good intentions to teach multiplication to a 1-year-old may be unable to actually produce comprehension in the 1-year-old. What is hell? I say good intentions can lead deeper and deeper into hell. What is it? Hell is a lack of clarity about what language is, about what spirituality is, about what heaven is. Note that there's been some language about having to die in order to get to heaven. Is this a reference to the physical death of an organism? Or could the use of the word die be poetic, as in symbolic, as in metaphorical? Could it be that an old way of perceiving is what dies in order for an eternal heaven to be recognized?